There comes a time when you say enough's enough.
If you get 60% of those delegates, you're the nominee, period.
At convention, Cox gets booed off the stage, and yet Cox stands up there with all the confidence in the world and says, it doesn't matter, I'm going to win anyway. Because he knew he would win anyway. What can we as individuals do about it? First thing I did is I ran for office. Election integrity is a really complicated issue here because there are so many different ways to cheat. But as I got into that election here, I started to see the corruption and how the establishment really controls things. Why the caucus system is good is because the people that tend to be more involved do much more due diligence on candidates to better make a decision, and then they cast their vote based on actual policy positions. They implemented a bill known as SB 54. They devised a way to circumnavigate the delegates and the convention system altogether. Because Cox gathered 28,000 signatures, he was able to go to the primary. Who's ultimately verifying those signatures? The lieutenant governor's office. Who's on the ticket with the governor? The lieutenant governor. The state legislature is talking about doing away with the caucus system, so it would be only signature gathering. We have to get back to the Constitution. We have to ensure that our elections are fair and secure, because after all, that's where everything starts. We are putting people in place that make decisions for things that affect every single aspect of our life. So if we're not getting the people that we actually elect and they're selected for us, we don't have true representation in this country. It's a false notion that we have freedoms if at the very base level we cannot have confidence that the people that are making the laws for us were actually elected by the people and not selected by some elite group somewhere. That's why election integrity is so important, because it's at the root of everything else. It's at the root of abortion and every other issue there is, what we're spending our money on, immigration, sanctuary cities, you name it. If we elect people that have the principles that we actually have and the moral standard that we actually have, then we're going to get the results that we want up at the state legislature when they make our laws. But if they're selected, they're going to do whatever the hell they want. How can we make a difference? What should we do? There's 29 counties in Utah. Roy Piscadlo and I traveled to 25 of Utah's 29 counties. We thought that we could actually affect things by speaking with all of the county clerks in the state and county commission. Lieutenant Governor's office is in charge of all the elections. She is the head election official in the state. Roy and I actually, based on the information we gathered over a course of 18 months, put together legislation. So we based our idea of auditing elections off the Sarbanes-Oxley model, which said we can't have the lieutenant governor and the governor's office watching over elections when they have a stake in the game, essentially the governorship of the state. And so we wanted to take that out of the equation by having third-party auditors come in, paid for by the state, but accountable to the counties. When you mail ballots out, you lose chain of custody. So we don't know with assurance what's happening to these ballots and who's actually getting them. But there's a third category that only the state of Utah has, and it's called withheld. And that withheld category in Salt Lake County is now up to 33%. So 33% of all voters, no one can see. In Utah, we don't even have access to the withheld category, okay? Imagine if we had that category of voter. We're finding fraud outside of the withheld category. Withheld was meant for judges, police officers, and battered men and women. If you add all those categories up, that's less than 2% of the overall registered voter population. Salt Lake County's 33%. We now have a governor that has pronouns, he, she, him, her. He pivots right when he needs to get elected, to get more votes, and then goes right back to his liberal ideology. I don't care whether you're Republican, Democrat, or otherwise, you should be concerned about what's going on with our elections. In Utah, it's a Republican problem. It is the Republicans, the so-called Republican establishment, that is cheating in Utah. It's not the Democrats at all. They have no power. It's the uniparty doing it, and in Utah, it's the Republicans. Our goal is to not show every case of fraud in every way they do it. It's to pick an area that we can definitively show irrefutable evidence that this is fraud. We have to get back to paper ballots, which will take care of all the other areas of election interference, with the exception of lawfare and censoring on social media. We have a group of elite individuals that are controlling the state, and they're doing it in such a way that the masses of people don't even know it's happening. We have to solve a serious problem of election interference, election integrity in the state. The good people have ignored it, and by ignoring it, we end up with those individuals that are in it for nefarious reasons. It really is like the Matrix. A lot of people they can't deal with it. They don't want to know that bad things are happening. They don't want to know that somebody that might be of their same faith might be taking advantage of them. They just don't want to know that. And others are just too busy to get involved. But if we don't start getting involved, we're going to lose this country. We believe in the Constitution. We believe in states' rights. We believe in individual rights. We believe in government answerable to the people. We don't just sit idly by and do nothing. It's a body of action that's going to make the change here. God can work through us, but we've got to say yes.